whisper calls from the edges of memory, soft and haunting, like the echo of a long-forgotten prayer. You can almost feel its warmth on your skin, but it's distant, elusive, like the last rays of sunlight before the world slips into shadow. Do you remember the sun? It asks. You're not sure if it's your own voice or something ancient, something far older, calling you to listen. There was a time when the sun wasn't as it is now, brilliant, untouchable, an eternal flame burning with untamed fire.
Ow.
There was a moment when the sun was humble, small in its birth, a flickering spark that no one believed could ever rise to glory. And it was this sun that would, in time, change everything. His name was Nanahuatzin, a name spoken with reverence, but also with a hint of sorrow, for it carries the memory of a god lost in the tides of time. You see, Nanahuatzin didn't seek the honor of becoming the sun. He wasn't like the others, the mighty gods with their splendor, their proud faces and their strong hands. Nanahuatzin was simple, a god of humility. His very nature seemed too meek for the greatness the other gods demanded. But yet, it was he who would light the heavens and give life to the world. How did this happen? How did this small, unassuming god come to stand in the fire, a sacrifice to his own divine destiny? The answer is buried deep within the whispers of ancient rituals and forgotten practices, which speak of gods chosen not by might, but by something else entirely, something that can't be measured by the simple gaze of mortals. But first, you must understand how it all began. Let's travel to a time when the gods were still in their prime, when they moved with ease between the realms of humanity and the heavens. The world was a place of balance. The gods were to govern, and all things life, death, the seasons, the stars were in their hands. But the greatest of them all, the one who would be the sun, had not yet been decided. The gods gathered to choose who would rise to rule the heavens and cast their light upon the world. Many gods stood in line, their eyes burning with ambition, their hearts swelling with desire for the eternal glory of the sun. It will be me, they each thought, one more magnificent than the last. The powerful, the beautiful, the gods who had molded the elements, they were the chosen ones, or so they believed.
Ow.
But there, at the edge of the gathering, stood Nanahuatzin, small, unremarkable, his form wrapped in simplicity and quiet grace. He didn't stand with the grand gods, but apart from them, as if he had no place in their contest. Yet his heartbeat was something none of the other gods possessed, something quiet, humble, yet unyielding. The gods were divided. Who would be the sun? And why had they gathered in such a way? The answer remains a mystery. Why test the gods as if they were mere mortals? What were they trying to prove? Some say it was a cosmic test to see which god could endure the greatest sacrifice. Others whisper that a true god must find strength in surrender, in the willingness to offer themselves to the world without question. This was the trial Nanahuatzin would face. To become the sun, one had to sacrifice it all pride, arrogance, their very identity. And so Nanahuatzin, with his humble heart, offered himself freely to the flames of the gods. He wouldn't rise because he desired power or glory, but because it was his fate, written in the ancient stars, and he would walk that path, no matter how small he seemed. The trial was set. Nanahuatzin's competitors, gods of immense power and presence, stepped forward first. They were beautiful, terrifying, mighty. They offered their strength, their brilliance, their very souls to the flames. But none could match the quiet determination that burned in Nanahuatzin's heart. He, the most humble of them all, offered himself in the purest form of sacrifice, without pride, without expectation, only the willingness to disappear into the fire. The other gods watched. Surely he cannot survive this, they thought. But Nanahuatzin did not falter. He stepped into the flames without hesitation, and as the fire consumed him, something strange happened. He didn't burn away into nothingness. Instead, the sacred fire consumed him, but in doing so, it forged him into something else entirely. The humble god once thought unworthy became something far greater than any god could have imagined. He became the sun. But there was a cost to this transformation. The fire that birthed him also left a scar. His light, though brilliant, was not like that of the other gods. There was a shadow in his flame, a darkness that lingered even in his glory. The other gods, who had expected magnificence, stood in awe and fear. They whispered to one another about the shadow that accompanied Nanahuatzin's light. This was the beginning of a truth that would be passed down through the ages, a secret the gods themselves would try to erase, the truth that the sun, in all its brilliance, was not pure. It was born from the humility of a god, but it also carried with it a wound. You now stand at the edge of that truth. The sun, which lights our world, carries within it a hidden darkness, and its humble beginning is a story that few dare to speak aloud. Yet here you are, listening as the whispers of the gods curl around you like smoke. And so, you ask yourself, what is the price of light? It must be sacrificed to become the source of all life. Let's get started with today's story. The fire that consumed Nanahuatzin wasn't fire as we know it. This divine fire didn't just burn. It cleansed, it transformed, it reshaped the very essence of being. To stand before it was to face both creation and destruction, a paradox only the gods could grasp. So when Nanahuatzin's body was swallowed by the flames, he didn't just perish. He was remade. The inferno that had consumed him now left him shining with the purity of the sun itself. The gods watched from their sacred places, eyes wide with a mix of fear and reverence. None of them could truly understand what had just happened. Nanahuatzin, humble, small, and meek, had become the very force that brings life to all. As this new sun rose, the world began to change. The long reign of darkness receded, shadows trembling and fleeing before the light. Nanahuatzin's brilliance shone down, bringing warmth, life, and growth. But something felt wrong, unsettling. Subtle cracks began to appear in this new world. No one could explain it, not even the gods. Though the sun brought life, it also burned with a fire that could not be escaped. In the hearts of mortals, a deep unease began to stir. The gods had tested Nanahuatzin, but now they faced their own trial. Could this new sun carry the weight of its own creation without collapsing under its own intensity? In the sacred texts, there's a line whispered with great care. It speaks of this paradoxical creation, and the sun, though it gave life, also took it away. This has puzzled scholars for centuries. What does it mean that a god of life also brings death? Some say it's just the natural order life, and death are eternally bound. But others believe it hints at something darker, a price Nanahuatzin paid that no one, not even the gods, fully understood. There's an almost forgotten belief that when Nanahuatzin rose to become the sun, he did not rise alone. The ancient texts speak of a second, hidden sun one that burned with an equal but opposite light. Some say this twin sun was lost in the same fire that gave birth to Nanahuatzin. But where did it go? Was it consumed by the darkness of the gods' forgotten realm, a place beyond time and space? This mystery might be the greatest unsolved riddle of the gods' creation. Did Nanahuatzin truly become the sun alone, or was there a counterpart meant to rise beside him? Perhaps the gods, in their wisdom, chose to hide it, knowing the world couldn't bear the balance between two suns. It is in this shadow of uncertainty the true nature of Nanahuatzin's sacrifice begins to unfold. The gods created the sun, but they didn't fully understand what it would become. In the days that followed his ascension, the people began to worship the sun with a devotion bordering on obsession. Temples were built, rituals established. A strange and unsettling practice emerged, passed down in whispers. Now, to truly honor the sun, one must offer a sacrifice, a gift of fire, of light, of self. The greatest offering was a willing surrender to the sun's power. Priests would gather at dawn, covered in ash, cast offerings into a fire, hoping to draw closer to the sun's radiant light. But there were darker rites, too, performed in secret. These rites spoke of the hidden sun, the one lost in the flames. What did these followers seek? Did they want to bring back the twin sun, or simply understand the true cost of Nanahuatzin's transformation? The gods themselves couldn't say. The sun had become something beyond their control, a force of life, but also a force of destruction. A quiet belief grew in the corners of the world. The sun was not just a god of light and warmth, but also of fire and death. The greatest secret of all was that the sun, like the gods themselves, could not exist without balance. So you have to wonder, listening to these ancient whispers, what happens when that balance shifts? What happens when the light grows too strong and the darkness is lost forever? The answer, it seems, lies hidden within the fire, just waiting to be found. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into mythology, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to join us on our next exploration. Have you ever stared at the sun and felt a strange pull, a sense of awe, but also a hint of unease? The ancient gods who watched Nanahuatzin become the sun certainly did. They set a great trial for him, one that began long before he stepped into the sacred fire. But what was this trial truly for? No ancient text or divine utterance has ever explained it. The gods, in their infinite wisdom, knew that for a god to prove their worth, they must be tested. They chose Nanahuatzin for his humility, but there was more at stake than just his character. Some say the gods were testing the very fabric of existence. Could one humble god ascend to such power without breaking the world? Could they carry the weight of light without the entire cosmos trembling? This wasn't just a test of strength. It was a test of balance. The gods knew that to become the sun, Nanahuatzin had to embody both creation and destruction, life and death. To become the light was not just an honor, but a profound sacrifice. But even he, standing at the edge of his transformation, didn't understand the full weight of it. He didn't know that his light would not only sustain life, but one day also scorch the earth. As Nanahuatzin rose from the flames, the gods held their breath. They saw his quiet sacrifice, but they also saw something else. Something that would unsettle them for ages. His light, though pure, carried a shadow within it. A flicker of darkness that no one could explain. A faint shadow stretched from his flame, curling toward the earth. What did it mean? Was it the light of a new god already cracking under the weight of its own creation? The mystery only deepens. The gods created the test to measure Nanahuatzin's heart. But they didn't foresee that his heart would carry the very paradox of existence. Life intertwined with death, light inseparable from shadow. How could the creators have known that the act of creation itself would plant the seeds of destruction? Perhaps the most unsettling part is that the trial never ended. It echoes through time, still shaping the fate of the world. Can any being truly bear the weight of ultimate power without being consumed by it? Was the light ever truly Nanahuatzin's to control? Or was he just a vessel for a force far greater than himself? Ancient texts, hidden and forgotten, hint at a time when the sun will grow dim, when the fire that brought life will turn cold. They whisper that the gods who tested Nanahuatzin will one day face their own trials. But these texts are incomplete, their meanings lost to time. So we are left with the whispers of the gods, wondering what it means to be a god of sacrifice. Is it enough to offer yourself in humility? Or must you also understand the true cost of your gift? Can you give your light without losing your soul? The answer, like the gods themselves, remains a mystery. And yet, the trial continues. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the hidden stories of mythology, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We have so much more to explore together. The moment Nanahuatzin entered the fire was not an end. It was the beginning of something far greater and far more terrifying. Those flames that carried him to the heavens, transforming him into the sun, were not just divine, they were a gateway. A fiery portal separating gods from mortals, the known from the unknown. This sacred fire was also cursed, a blaze that held both creation and destruction, just as the sun itself would come to embody both forces. As we journey back through time, you can almost feel the heat of that ancient fire, still smoldering in the echoes of memory. Nanahuatzin, the humble god, was not immune to its terror. His journey was fraught with torment. He was shaken by the intensity of the divine blaze, for this was a fire that did not simply purify, it consumed. To become the sun, one had to surrender everything, even their own identity. This was no mere trial. It was a sacrifice, a complete surrender of all that a god was or could ever be to the greater will of the cosmos. To step into the fire was to step into oblivion. For as bright as the flames burned, they were also a place of forgetting. Everything that came before would be lost. Nanahuatzin, a god of humility, had also been a god of memory, carried the weight of history, the ancient knowledge passed down from those before him. But when he stepped into the fire, that knowledge was consumed. The gods had spoken of a cleansing fire, one that would wash away impurities. But did it not also erase the very essence of the one who entered it? This is the great mystery of the fire. Was it purification, or was it a trap? Hidden texts, guarded by secret worshippers, speak of a fire that burns away the soul, remaking the god in its own image. Once remade, a god can never return to what they once were. As Nanahuatzin walked toward the blaze, there were no promises of glory. He didn't know what awaited him. Unlike the other gods who thirsted for greatness, Nanahuatzin's heart was empty of pride, empty of ambition, but it was also empty of fear. He knew that to become the sun, he had to leave everything behind. His godhood, his name, his very essence, all would be cast into the flames. But what would emerge when all that he had been was gone? The gods themselves had not foretold the outcome. They only knew that one must be willing to sacrifice everything. And so, Nanahuatzin stepped forward without hesitation. He did not turn back, for there was nothing to return to. His mind was clear, his soul unburdened. He was ready to give himself to the fire, to become one with it. As he entered the flames, the world trembled. The gods looked on, their eyes wide with wonder and awe, but also fear. They knew he would not emerge as he had been. He would be something else entirely. But then, something happened that none had anticipated. As Nanahuatzin was consumed, the sky seemed to shift. The earth shook beneath the gods' feet, as if the very balance of the world had been disrupted. The fire had done its work, but in doing so, it had altered the fabric of existence. The world that would emerge would never be the same. In the temples below, the priests gathered, offering sacrifices to the new sun blazing above. They didn't know the true nature of the fire or its consequences, were taught to worship, to honor Nanahuatzin. But they had been told the full truth, that the fire which gave life also carried an ancient curse. Their rituals were not just offerings of gratitude. They were acts of desperation. For what happens when a god is risen, but has also been lost? What happens when the sun's light begins to dim and the world is slowly consumed by shadow? This is the true horror of the fire. It doesn't just create, it transforms. It doesn't just purify, it corrupts. The priests, in their ignorance, worshipped something that had been changed, lost to the fire's grasp. The sun, once bright with the humble light of Nanahuatzin, was now a reflection of that fire burning with both life and death. As it rose higher, its light grew colder. It brought warmth, but it also cast longer, darker shadows. The earth began to wither, and the people felt the weight of a divine curse. The humble god had become a god of duality, its light and darkness forever intertwined. Nanahuatzin's journey had reached its tragic end. His light no longer his own, but twisted by the fire that had consumed him. The gods had made their choice, and now the whole world would face the consequences. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy exploring the hidden, darker side of mythology, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories from the shadows of history. Have you ever looked up at the sun and felt an ancient, unsettling power? We all know the story of Nanahuatzin, the humble god who sacrificed himself in fire to become our sun, bringing light and life to the world. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the light we depend on is also a harbinger of our end? As Nanahuatzin ascended, a quiet tension fell over creation. The gods, who had orchestrated this grand event, watched with a growing sense of dread. They had wanted a source of warmth in life, but the fire that forged the new sun was not just a creative force, it was a force of entropy. The very light that nourished life was also slowly, inevitably, consuming it. The gods hadn't foreseen this. Their perfect balance between light and darkness was suddenly shattered. Nanahuatzin's power was immense, overwhelming, and it threatened to tear apart the delicate fabric of existence. What have we done? They whispered among themselves. Had they created a god of light or a god of destruction? On Earth, the people felt it too. The sun's warmth became suffocating. Crops that once flourished under its rays now withered and died. The ground itself seemed to tremble, as if being cooked from within. Priests began to speak in hushed tones, questioning the sun's true nature. Why did it grow colder even as it burned brighter? The people prayed for answers, but the gods remained silent, trapped in their own uncertainty. But here's where the mystery deepens. Ancient, forgotten texts, the gods themselves tried to erase speak of a time when there weren't one, but two suns, twin lights in the sky. One was pure creation, a symbol of life. The other was dark, consuming, a symbol of destruction. They were meant to exist in balance, but that balance could not hold. It's said that one sun devoured the other, becoming a singular entity of both life and death. What happened to that second sun? The gods buried the knowledge, hoping to hide their monumental error. But whispers persist in the dark corners of the world, whispers of a prophecy that one day the second sun will return to eclipse the first. And when it does, the world will be torn apart. This is the cosmic dilemma that still haunts the heavens. The terrible knowledge that our sun is incomplete, its brilliance, a constant reminder of the world's potential collapse. The gods didn't just fear the sun they created. They feared the terrifying truth that no god can truly control the forces they unleash. The power they gave to Nanahuatzin now hangs over us all, an unspoken truth, a shadow cast by the brightest light. Think about it. What happens when creators lose control of their own creations? What happens when the very light you brought into the world turns against you? In those quiet moments, when the sun feels a little too bright, a little too hot, you can almost feel it, that ancient, unanswerable question. The true horror of the sun isn't its light, but the terrifying knowledge that one day it will simply burn too bright. And when that day comes, everything will turn to ash. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy exploring the darker side of mythology, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories that have been hidden in the shadows. There is a secret, old as time itself, that hovers in the spaces between the stars. It's a truth buried beneath layers of myths, lies, and erasure. A truth that even the gods dare not speak of. Some say that once there wasn't one sun, but two. To gods of light, twin in their power, each destined to shine for eternity. But the world as we know it doesn't remember this. It remembers only one. The sun, that is, the sun that shines above you right now. So, what happened to the second sun? Where did it go? The gods are silent. The priests who once whispered of its existence have long since ceased their murmurings, and the people have forgotten. They have no memory of a world with more than one sun. The one you see now is the one that rules the sky, the one that has always been, or so you're told. But hidden fragments, sacred texts, buried in forgotten places, tell a different story. They speak of a time when two suns burned in the heavens with equal intensity. The first sun was Nanahuatzin, the humble god who ascended through sacrifice and devotion. But the second, the hidden sun, was different. This sun wasn't born of humility, but of pride, of a fierce and unyielding desire to rule the world. This second sun was a god of power, its fire consuming everything it touched. It burned with a light that was cold, unyielding, and terrifying. It was not a god of life, but of destruction. In its arrogance, this sun sought to eclipse Nanahuatzin, to become the one true light and cast its shadow over all that lived, the gods. In their wisdom, or perhaps their fear, knew this could not happen. The balance had to be maintained. One sun must rise, and one must fall. The second sun, they say, was swallowed by its own fire, consumed by the very flames that had forged it. But even as it was consumed, its light didn't fade. It lingered, a dying ember, waiting for the moment it could rise again. The truth buried deep beneath the ashes of forgotten temples is that it wasn't truly destroyed. No, it was hidden away, sealed within the very fabric of the cosmos. Exiled to a realm beyond time and space, a place that exists in the shadows of our world. And there, the second sun waits, its fire smoldering, its light dim but not extinguished. It waits for the day it will return. But why? Why was it hidden away, cast into the void? Was it the gods' fear of its power, or something else, something darker? The truth remains elusive, a question that none dare ask aloud. Because in asking, you might unlock something far more terrible than the gods ever intended. You can feel it, can't you? The presence of this hidden sun, lingering just beyond the veil, a force that isn't gone, but dormant, waiting. When it does return, what will happen to our world? What will happen to the sun we know now, the one that shines so brightly, but whose light casts such long and creeping shadows? This is the secret of the two suns. The gods could unallow the world to remember that the sun they worshipped was the only one, nor even the first. The sun we see is just a fragment of a greater truth. As you stand beneath the light of Nanahuatzin, you might wonder, what will happen when the second sun returns? Will it eclipse the first? Will the balance between light and dark finally tip into chaos? Near the quiet, if you listen closely, you might hear a whisper, like the rustling of ancient parchment. There are always two suns, it says. One to give life, and one to take it away. But which is which, and which will rise again? And as you ponder that, you realize the question isn't just about stars and shadows. It's a question of the divine, of what the gods truly feared when they crafted the heavens, and what happens when their creations grow beyond their control. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie hidden in the flames that gave birth to our sun? We all know the story of Nanahuatzin, the humble god who sacrificed himself in a divine fire to become the new sun. But what if that wasn't the whole story? What if that fire consumed more than just a god? What if it erased something far older, something the gods themselves feared? The official story tells us Nanahuatzin's sacrifice brought light to the world. But whispers from forgotten times tell a different tale. They say his ascension was not just a noble act, it was a cosmic ritual, a necessary cover-up. To understand what was truly lost, we have to look beyond the blinding light of the sun and peer into the shadows it casts. The sun you see isn't just a symbol of life. It's a monument to a forgotten sacrifice, one that echoes back to an age before the current gods even existed. The fire that transformed Nanahuatzin wasn't an ordinary flame. It was a consuming force designed to erase a forbidden truth. In order for the new sun to rise, another god had to fall not in battle, but from memory itself. The texts are cryptic, but they hint at an unthinkable act. Nanahuatzin didn't just sacrifice himself. He was the vessel for a much greater sacrifice. He was forced to offer up the very knowledge, the very existence of the first god. Who was the first god? Imagine a being that existed before everything, a primordial deity of pure balance. It's neither light nor dark, holding the very fabric of the universe together. Its power was so immense, its name is now lost to time. The other gods knew that to usher in their new era. An age dominated by the sun, they had to sever all ties to this ancient power. They had to wipe its memory from creation. The sacred fire was their Tula ritual of cosmic forgetting. This is the secret the gods have tried to bury. Our sun was born from an act so profound it shook the foundations of reality. By erasing the first god, they created the light that sustains us. But this act of creation came with an unforeseen cost. Even as the memory of the first god was scoured from existence, the fire left something behind. It left a shadow, a darkness that now lingers within the light, a seed of destruction planted at the very heart of creation. The gods, in their quest for a new world, unknowingly wove the threads of their own undoing. Nanahuatzin's ascension wasn't just a choice. It was a forbidden ritual that altered time itself. But memory is a stubborn thing. Though erased, the essence of the first god wasn't truly gone. It lingers, hidden beneath the surface of the world, waiting for the day it might return. And in the quiet corners of the world and forgotten temples, there are those who still remember. They whisper that one day the first god will re-emerge, and the brilliant sun we know will be consumed in the process. So as you stand under its warm light, ask yourself, what was the true cost of our sun? In the silence that follows, there's only the soft, eternal burning of the star above, a constant reminder of the shadow that follows the light. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the forgotten myths. If you enjoy exploring the hidden corners of history and legend, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time. When Nanahuatzin, humble and scarred, sacrificed himself in the sacred fire, the gods watched him rise into the heavens. Crowned in light, he became the sun, a source of life for the new world. But as his first rays stretched across the cosmos, a sense of unease settled over the divine. Something was wrong. The light was pure, yes, filled with warmth and life, but something else clung to it. A shadow, a long, dark presence stretching from the very heart of the flame. You can feel it too, can't you? That subtle sense that things are not as they should be. Distant whisper, like a half-remembered dream, hints at a secret buried deep within that divine fire. secret no god dares to speak aloud, because what was born in that fire wasn't just the sun. It was also its reflection, a mirror image of something far older, something even the gods feared. And now that something is stirring in the shadows, waiting for its moment to step into the light, the gods believed Nanahuatzin's selfless act would bring eternal balance. But from the moment he ascended, that balance began to unravel. The very act of creating the sun had disrupted the fabric of the universe in ways no one could have foreseen. So, what is this shadow that follows the light? It's not the simple darkness of night that fades at dawn. This is something deeper and ancient, forgotten force. It isn't just an absence of light. It's a presence in its own right, a force that mirrors the sun itself. It is the darkness born when light becomes too intense, too pure, too overwhelming. The oldest texts, those that survived the ravages of time, speak of this. They tell of a force that is neither good nor evil, but a necessary counterpart to creation. From the beginning, there were two primordial powers, light and shadow, creation and destruction. The gods always knew one could not exist without the other. They knew creating the sun would eventually call forth its shadow. But what they failed to grasp was that this shadow was not a passive force. It was a god in its own right, a cosmic will waiting to rise and claim its place in the heavens.
The shadow, just like Nanahuatzin's light, was born from the same fire.
Within those flames, the two forces were fused together, entwined in a way neither could fully understand. And so, the shadow began to grow. At first it was quiet, just a flicker at the edge of Nanahuatzin's brilliance. The priests and the people saw the sun as a symbol of hope and warmth. But in the darkest corners of the world, where the sun's light couldn't quite reach, whispers began. People noticed that, even bathed in light, the world felt colder. Crops that once flourished began to wither. The earth itself trembled. The gods felt it too. The delicate balance was tipping. As the shadows stretched, inch by inch, across the sky, they found themselves helpless. They had created the sun to bring life, but in doing so, they had also awakened its opposite. A god born of shadow, not light. A force destined to slowly consume the very fire that gave it form. Here lies the hidden truth of the cosmos. Light and shadow are not opposites, but reflections. Two sides of the same coin? When one becomes too strong, when the light burns too brightly, it casts a shadow that is fated to rise. The sun, for all its life-giving power, carries the seeds of its own demise. The light you see in the sky is not eternal. One day, it will burn too brightly, and when it does, the shadow will rise to take its place. This won't be a simple darkness. It will be the return of something ancient, something forgotten. The return of the shadow god born from the very same fire as the sun. The cosmic balance is faltering. The sun cannot exist alone. And as it burns high in the sky, you can feel that shadow growing, creeping closer with every passing moment. It waits patiently, biding its time until it can rise and reclaim what was once its own. The question is, when it finally does, will you be ready? Thanks for watching. If you enjoy exploring the hidden sides of mythology, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. In the deepest, darkest corners of the world, in places untouched by the sun's light, there is a realm where gods go to die. Rather, where they go when they are forgotten, when they have fallen, when they have failed. It is a place beyond the grasp of time, a land where shadows linger and the light can never reach. You might think Nanahuatzin's sacrifice and ascension to become the sun was the end of a great story. But it was only the beginning of a dark truth, a truth known only to the most ancient of gods. This is the Forgotten Realm, a place where creation and destruction, light and dark, collide in a tangled eternal dance. This realm isn't a physical place you can visit. It's a dimension of memory and time, built from the fragments of forgotten deeds, discarded sins, and lost ambitions. It's said the gods banished here cannot truly die. They live on in an eternal exile, their power muted, their presence faint. Yet their whispers still echo in the quiet darkness of the world. They are waiting for the moment when they can break free, when the cosmic balance will finally shift and they can reclaim what was taken from them. But what binds them here? What force holds them in this endless prison, first gods, the ones who forged the world from chaos, created this realm. It was meant to be a prison for those who broke divine laws, for those who failed in their sacred duties. As each new god ascended, they became part of a cosmic cycle that demanded sacrifice, that demanded the old gods be forgotten so the new could rise. This realm isn't just a prison, it's a reflection of the divine order. It's a place where those erased from the world go to await their eventual return, and they are not idle. There is no peace in this forgotten place. Their memories slipping in and out of clarity. Lately, something has been changing. Some gods, long forgotten by mortal minds, have begun to awaken. Their ancient names are stirring in the silence, as they whisper of a time when the balance will break, when the sun will burn too brightly and the shadows will rise to reclaim the world. They are realizing the true purpose of their exile. They are not meant to stay forgotten. They are meant to return. But how? When? The very fabric of time here is fragile, shifting, unstable. They know their time is coming, but they don't know what form it will take. Will they rise to challenge the sun and bring about an age of darkness? Or will they reclaim their rightful place in the heavens? The question remains unanswered, but the whispers grow louder. In the quiet shadows of our world, there is a growing sense of unease. The weight of their failure presses down on them, but so does the knowledge that their time will come again. This restlessness, this longing to return to the light, is what threatens to tip the balance. When these forgotten gods fully awaken, when they remember who they once were, they will seek to reclaim their place. They will challenge the sun that now rules the sky. And when that day comes, the world will be caught in the crossfire of a divine conflict. Torn between the gods of light and the gods of shadow, can you feel it? The realm is growing darker as its forgotten residents stir from their slumber. The pull of their restless power, the tension in the air as the cosmic balance begins to shift. The sun may shine brightly now, but its light is fading, its heat growing unbearable. The world is holding its breath, waiting. The forgotten realm is no longer quiet. The gods are waking up, and they are coming. When they do, what will you do? Will you stand with the sun, the light that has guided us for so long? Or will you embrace the shadow, the ancient darkness that has waited patiently to return? The choice may not be yours to make, because in the end, the balance will shift, whether we are ready for it or not. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy exploring the hidden corners of mythology, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'll see you in the next one. The fire that birthed Nanahuatzin into the heavens, into the very heart of creation, did not just transform him. It altered the gods themselves. They had crafted the sun, yes, but in doing so, they unknowingly set in motion the unraveling of the entire cosmic order. A fracture in the divine circle that would echo across the heavens and the earth for all time. You see, a circle is meant to be whole, endless, perfect, unbroken. But the moment Nanahuatzin became the sun, something cracked. The divine order that had governed the world for eons began to fall apart. The gods had always known they were part of a cycle, creation, sustenance, and destruction, all bound by the laws of the cosmos. But now the sun, once a humble god who sought only to serve, was the axis around which the universe spun. It wasn't just a symbol of light, it was the source of everything. And yet in its very purity, it could not sustain itself. What happens when a god becomes too great, too luminous for the world to bear? You can feel it even now, the strain of this cosmic fracture. The world beneath us is not the same as it once was. Nanahuatzin's light, though it burns brightly, is no longer the force of pure life it once was. It's a light that grows colder with each passing day, its warmth increasingly uncertain. The gods watch from their celestial thrones, painfully aware that the circle has begun to crack. They know that the sun, though brilliant, cannot endure this tension forever. The delicate balance between light and dark, creation and destruction, is shifting. In the ancient teachings, there was a time when gods didn't rise to power through the fire of sacrifice. There was a time when they were born not of light, but of balanced siege, God existing to fulfill a specific role within the divine circle. A time when the sun wasn't the center of everything, but just one part of a larger, harmonious whole. But as Nanahuatzin ascended, As the fire consumed and remade him, that circle was broken. The gods who had once been at the heart of creation were now cast adrift in a universe that no longer made sense. This broken circle is more than a metaphor, it's a reality. The ancient texts speak of a time when the gods themselves were tied to the very fabric of existence. They weren't separate from the world, but one with it. The creation of the sun, however, set them apart, placed the gods on high, removed from the struggles of the earth below. And in doing so, it severed the connection between the divine and the mortal realms, us. This disconnection, this fracture, is the heart of the mystery that plagues the gods to this day. Because the gods know something that has been forgotten by all but the most devout. In creating the sun, in making a god too powerful, too absolute, they severed their own link to the world, made themselves too distant, too removed from the balance they once upheld. The gods are restless, though they won't speak of it. They know they cannot remain above the world forever. The balance must be restored, or the universe itself will collapse. But how? How can the circle be mended when the sun, the very center of all creation, has grown too bright, too all-consuming? The priests, in their wisdom or perhaps their ignorance, speak of a time when the gods will return to the earth, when they will walk among mortals once more. But this won't be a time of benevolence. It will be a time of reckoning. The gods must descend, must reconnect with the earth, or the very act of their separation will tear apart the cosmos. But how can a god descend when they are bound to the heavens, to their own creation? How can they return to the earth when they have forgotten their place in the circle? The answer, as always, is hidden in the shadows. The gods know the cycle must begin again, but to do so, they must find a way to restore the circle, to bring balance back to the world. The ancient belief holds that when the gods return, they will not come as they once were. They will not be the same glorious deities who rose to the heavens with pride. They will come as mortals, stripped of their divine power, bound once more to the earth from which they came. Only then, when they have suffered as mortals do, will they be able to restore the balance. And so, the gods wait. They wait in the shadows, in the broken fragments of their former glory, knowing their return is inevitable. The circle must be repaired. The light of the sun, though it may burn too brightly now, will one day fade. And when it does, the shadow will rise to meet it. The world will fall into darkness, but this darkness will not be the end. It will be the beginning of the cycle once more. You stand now beneath the fading light of Nanahuatzin, aware that the world is shifting beneath your feet. The broken circle is not just a story, it is a reality, one that will shape the fate of gods and mortals alike. The sun, though it shines today, will one day burn out. And when it does, the darkness will rise to take its place. But remember this, the darkness is not an end. It is simply another beginning, and the circle will be whole again. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, be sure to subscribe for more journeys into myth and legend. Have you ever looked up at the sun and felt a change? A subtle shift you can't quite name. In the ancient stories, the sun wasn't just a star. It was Nanahuatzin, a humble god who sacrificed himself in a divine fire to bring light to the world. A noble act, a glorious ascension. But every light casts a shadow, and Nanahuatzin's shadow has been growing, stretching across the heavens, unnoticed at first, but now undeniable. The warmth that once nurtured the earth feels colder. The light, once pure and vibrant, now seems weary, flickering at the edges, as if exhausted by its own brilliance. You can feel it, can't you? The world that once thrived under the sun's fire now trembles as it slowly declines. Crops wither, the air grows still and heavy. This is the hidden cost of Nanahuatzin's sacrifice. The fire that made him the sun also bound him to a fate no god could escape. He became both creator and destroyer, light and shadow. The ancient texts whispered of this. They warned that no single flame can burn forever, that even gods of light must falter. Nanahuatzin's sacrifice, as heroic as it was, wasn't meant to be eternal. It was a brilliant, glorious flash destined to fade. And as the sun's light grows dimmer, we are forced to ask, what happens when the source of life begins to drain the very world it once nurtured? The other gods watch from afar, uneasy. They see what's happening, but they are powerless to intervene. Nanahuatzin fulfilled his purpose, but the power they gave him is now turning on itself. A chilling truth hangs in the air. His light was never meant to last. It was meant to give life and then recede into the darkness from which it came. The Forgotten Scrolls tell of a time before Nanahuatzin, a time when the power of the sun wasn't held by a single god. It was a cosmic force, shared among many in an endless cycle of renewal. By making one god the sun, the divine balance was broken. The gods in their pride created a power that couldn't sustain itself. Now, as the sun begins its slow descent, the world grows quieter. The air is thick with the weight of this fading glory. This isn't a sudden eclipse, but a gradual, agonizing dimming. Silent mourning for a light that is slowly being lost. Nanahuatzin, the humble god, has become a symbol of what all great powers face. The inevitable fade from glory into shadow. You can feel it now, the ground beneath you trembling with the weight of this passing. The gods are silent, but they know what is coming. When the sun's glory has finally burned itself out, what will rise to take its place? A darkness born from the brightest light, shadow so vast it will consume everything. We and the gods can only watch and wait for the inevitable answer to the terrifying question: what happens when the sun fades? Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the hidden depths of mythology, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon for more stories from the shadows of the past. As the sun's light fades and the earth grows cold, a quiet shift begins to stir in the hearts of men and gods alike. The sky, once a brilliant gold, now hangs heavy with the pall of twilight, a deepening shadow that stretches far beyond the horizon. This isn't just the dimming of daylight that causes such unease. It's the creeping sense that something else is coming, something darker, older, and far more powerful than anything the gods had ever anticipated. The sun, though it still burns, has begun its descent into something unnameable, something beyond the fire that once defined it. The shadow, once a mere whisper, now grows stronger, thickening like smoke at the edge of the world, threatening to eclipse everything the sun god, Nanahuatzin, had ever been. And the gods, watching from their distant thrones, know this darkness is not just an absence of light. No, it is something more profound. It is a return. Ancient, forgotten texts speak of a time before this world. It's a time when darkness and light were not enemies, but companions, existing in a delicate, eternal balance. This was before the gods came, before they set in motion the cycle of creation, life, and destruction. The texts describe an age when the light of creation was shared, not confined to a single god, but spread throughout the cosmos in a perfect, harmonious circle. But the creation of Nanahuatzin shattered this harmony. By giving one god the entirety of the sun's light, the gods disrupted the very balance that had once sustained everything. And now, with that light beginning to falter, the balance begins to tip once more. An ancient darkness stirs beneath the surface of the world, awakened by a sun that burned too brightly and too briefly. What is this darkness? Some say it is a forgotten god, one who existed before the heavens were even formed, whose presence shaped the cosmos. Others believe it is the shadow of the sun itself, a necessary counterpart that was cast aside when Nanahuatzin ascended. They say that in the beginning, the sun and its shadow were two parts of a whole, working together to bring forth light and dark, creation and destruction, life and death. Now, as the sun dims, that shadow rises to reclaim the space that was once its own. The people, though they do not understand, can feel the change. The air is thick with an unnatural stillness. The earth feels cold and unyielding. The priests, once so certain of the sun's power, now whisper in fear. They speak of a force that no god can control, a power that will reclaim the world when the sun finally fades. The gods themselves feel the shift. They know the balance they once held so carefully is slipping from their grasp. The cosmic cycle is breaking apart. There are those among them who seek to restore the unity between light and darkness, but their efforts are in vain. This shadow is too ancient, too vast, too powerful for even the gods to contain. And so, as the sun's light flickers and the shadow grows ever closer, the gods retreat into silence. They know what must come next. They know the sun will fade, and when it does, the darkness will rise to take its place. The earth will be plunged into shadow, and humanity will be forced to confront a truth that has long been hidden. The sun, which once brought life, is now the harbinger of an age's end. The world holds its breath, waiting. You can feel it in the very air, the weight of what is coming. The light of Nanahuatzin is no longer a light of hope. It is the last flicker of a flame that has burned too long. And in the darkness, something ancient is awakening, waiting for its moment to rise. When the sun fades completely, the shadow will take its place, and the gods will have no choice but to watch as the world is reshaped. The balance will be restored, not by light, but by shadow. A new era will begin. An era of quiet waiting, a time of reflection and loss, when the world turns inward and the light of the sun is no more. When that time comes, will you be ready to walk in the shadow? The choice is not yours. The darkness comes whether you are ready or not. The gods have known this for an eternity. And now it is your turn to understand. Thank you for watching, and if you're intrigued by the mysteries of the cosmos, be sure to subscribe for more. Beyond what mortal eyes can see, past the veils that hide the unknown, there is a place where forgotten gods wander in eternal exile. This isn't a location you'll find on any map or in any sacred text. It's a realm beyond time itself, where memories fade and existence is just a faint echo of what it once was. Here the gods wait. They wait for the moment they can return to the world, when the great cycle turns once more and they can reclaim the power they lost. But even in exile, they can't escape the consequences of their actions. This forgotten realm is far from peaceful. It's a place of restless silence, where gods who once wielded unimaginable power now find themselves broken. Stripped of their former glory, there are no prayers to answer, no worshippers to serve. The gods are trapped within a prison of their own making, their power muted, their names lost to time. The echoes of their past greatness ripple through the emptiness like a distant storm, yet they are powerless to act. They are bound, cut off from the world they once ruled, waiting for the moment they will once again have a place among the living. But what happens to a god when their place is lost? What happens to a divine being when their very essence is erased from the minds of mortals, and even from other gods? The answer lies in this forgotten realm, where they wait in exile, bound by the very forces they once commanded. Here, in this desolate place, they are no longer gods in the way we understand them. They're something else, something less than what they were, yet still connected to the divine power that once flowed through them. The realm itself is a labyrinth of fractured memories, a place where the gods' lost identities twist and warp like shadows in the dark. It's said that the very walls of this place are made of broken dreams and shattered hopes, the last remnants of the gods' former selves. They cannot leave, for they've been stripped of the power that once allowed them to shape the world. And yet, they remain faint, like ghosts lingering at the edges of time, waiting for the day they will have a chance to rise again. But there is something darker at play here. You can feel it, can't you? The gods, though exiled, are not completely forgotten. The force that binds them to this place is a strange and terrible 1A and ancient curse, perhaps, or a fundamental law of the universe that forces even the most powerful beings to face the consequences of their actions. And within this realm, powerful truth begins to stir a truth. The gods themselves tried to hide from the world, that no god is ever truly forgotten. Even in exile, they are always connected to the world, always bound to the mortal realm they left behind. And as a great shadow rises to reclaim the heavens, these forgotten gods will stir once more. Forbidden texts hidden away in forgotten libraries and sealed beneath layers of dust speak of this. They whisper that the gods of exile, in their long isolation, have learned the true nature of the cosmos, that the divine cycle isn't just one of creation and destruction, but one of inevitable return. The fallen gods, those lost to time and memory, will one day break free from their chains. When the balance of the world is upset, when the sun's light falters and the shadow rises, the forgotten gods will awaken, and they will come not as they were, not in their former glory, but as something more ancient. More terrible gods reborn in darkness, seeking to reclaim their rightful place in the heavens. The question remains, what will they do when they return? The answer is hidden within a broken circle in the very fabric of the divine struggle. The gods, in their eternal wisdom, knew they could not maintain their reign forever. The balance must be restored. But restoring that balance may come at a terrible cost. The gods of exile are not gentle beings. They're not the humble gods of old, who sacrifice themselves for others. They are the gods of power, of wrath, of forgotten ambition, and they will not be content to simply take their place again. They will seek more. They will seek to remake the world in their own image. In their exile, the gods have grown restless. They have learned what it is to suffer, what it is to be forgotten. And now, in the shadows, they wait for the moment when the sun's light fades completely. When the balance tips and the shadow rises to claim the heavens, that moment comes. The forgotten gods will emerge from the edges of time. They will bring with them a darkness the likes of which the world has never seen. This is the true cost of creation, the knowledge that the gods can never be fully erased. Even in exile, they remain. And when the sun falls, when the shadow rises, the forgotten gods will return. They will reclaim what was once theirs, and the cycle will begin again. But remember this: when the gods of exile return, they will not come in peace. They will come with power, with fury, and with the desire to reshape the world according to their own will. The gods who are forgotten are not weak. They are strong in their solitude, their power growing in the silence of their exile. And when they rise, the world will tremble beneath their feet. And will you stand with the gods of light, the fading sun that has warmed the earth for so long? Or will you embrace the shadow, the forgotten gods who return to claim the heavens once more? Let me know your choice in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the unknown. The darkness that stirs within the forgotten realms is not a passing shadow, nor something to be cast aside when the sun rises. It is a profound force, as ancient as creation itself, waiting for the moment when the balance will finally snap. That moment has come. The sun, though still burning, has begun its slow, inexorable descent. The gods of light and shadow, who once moved with ease between realms, now feel the weight of an irreversible change. The cosmic order they upheld is slipping through their fingers, and the time of reckoning is near. You can feel it, can't you? The air is heavy, thick with the sense that something is coming. The very earth trembles under the weight of this change. The world as it is cannot continue. The fading glory of the sun and the rising darkness are destined to collide. And when they do, everything will shift. The sun may still shine, but its light is no longer pure. It is tainted by the shadow that follows it, and when the final hour comes, that light will fade completely. As the shadow stretches across the heavens, you may wonder, what happens when the last light of the sun dies? Will the darkness claim the world entirely? The forgotten gods have waited for this moment, their exile now a distant memory. They have learned that no god can escape their destiny, that the cosmic cycle is not one of unbroken light. The balance must eventually give way to something darker. Forgotten gods, once exiled to the edges of time, now stir with the knowledge that their return is inevitable. They will reclaim what they lost. You can sense them now. These gods of shadow, their presence palpable, like a cold wind moving through the cracks of the world. They are not like the gods of light, whose brilliance brought warmth and life. These gods of shadow bring with them a quiet, oppressive force and ancient power that was once bound, but is now free to rise. They are not here to restore order. They are here to establish their reign, to reshape the world in a form that suits their will. The sun has had its time. The gods of light, led by Nanahuatzin, will fade into myth, into memory. Their light, which once seemed eternal, will be eclipsed. And in its place, the shadow will rise in eternal, unyielding darkness that will devour the remnants of the world as it once was. But there is a catch. The darkness that the forgotten gods bring is not simply destruction. It is transformation. For when the light fades and the shadow takes its place, the world will not simply be plunged into oblivion. It will be remade. The laws of creation and destruction, of life and death, will shift. What was once bright will turn cold and silent. What was once alive will be still. But within this stillness, there is potential for something new, something that the gods, in their wisdom and their arrogance, did not foresee. There are those who, even now, cling to the remnants of the light. They have seen the shadow rise, and they fear what it means. But there are whispers of those who believe that the coming darkness is not the end, but the beginning of a new cycle. A cycle where light and shadow will no longer be opposites, but will coexist in a way that none of the gods ever dreamed. The cycle will be broken, but it will also be reborn. The forgotten gods, as they awaken from their long exile, understand this. They do not seek to restore the balance that once was. They seek to create something new. A world where their reign is unchallenged, where the light no longer holds sway. And yet they know that this new world cannot be born without sacrifice. The light of Nanahuatzin must fade entirely before the new dawn can rise. And so, the question remains, will you stand with the sun as it fades, clinging to the hope that it will rise again, or will you embrace the shadow and welcome the gods who have long been forgotten? The darkness is not an end. It is the beginning of a new reign. The forgotten gods will rise again, but they will not rise alone. They will rise with you, with all those who have longed for something more, something new. And when they do, the world will be forever changed. The gods will reshape the heavens and the earth, not as they were, but as they are meant to be. The choice is not yours alone, for this is the way of the gods, the cycle of creation, destruction, and rebirth. The balance will be restored, but not as it was. The light that once illuminated the heavens will be replaced with a new radiance, one born from shadow, one that will be eternal. You have listened to the whispers of the gods, to the slow, inevitable fall of the sun, and you know now what must come. The world will fall into darkness, and in that darkness, the forgotten gods will rise to reclaim the heavens. They will bring with them a new order, a new reign, one that will be both terrifying and beautiful in its scope. And so, as the sun's light fades, you must ask yourself, will you stand with the shadow or with the dying light? The answer may not be in your hands, but you will be a part of it, whether you wish it or not. The gods are waking. The cycle is beginning anew. And in the darkness, there is both fear and hope. Thanks for watching. If you were captivated by this journey into the shadows, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We have many more stories to tell. The shadows grow longer now, creeping from the edges of the world, gathering in places where light once reigned. The sun, for so long a symbol of life, a divine fire warming the earth and nourishing our hearts, has begun its final descent. Its light, though still here, is weak, as if it knows its time is running out. Once so comforting, now feels like a fading memory. This is a light that will never return. Gods have abandoned it, and in its place, the shadows deepen, like an ocean slowly rising to swallow the shores. The gods of shadow, the forgotten ones, stir from their long exile. They emerge not in a blaze of glory, but in a quiet, steady rise, like the tide creeping toward the shore, inexorable and inevitable. They were once cast aside, lost in the dark corners of forgotten temples, their names erased from the memory of mortals. But now they return. They are the gods of balance, of both light and shadow, the ancient forces that once shaped the heavens before the gods of the sun came to rule. As they rise from their exile, they know the world is about to change. The sun may still shine, but its light is no longer pure. The shadow that has followed it for so long is now ready to take its place. This is the end of an era, Wu, the end of the time when light ruled over darkness, when the gods of light held sway over the earth. And as the shadow stretches further and further across the sky, the people feel the change. They don't understand it, but they sense it, a presence growing stronger, creeping toward them. But the gods of shadow are not here to destroy. No, they are here to restore. They are here to bring balance once more. For in the beginning, the world was not meant to be ruled by the sun alone. It was meant to be a world where light and shadow coexisted in harmony. The creation of the sun was but one part of the grand design. The sun brought life, yes, but it also brought death. It was only by acknowledging the darkness that the world could be reborn, could be healed. And so, as the light of Nanahuatzin fades, the gods of shadow return. They do not come with fury or wrath, but with the quiet, steady assurance that they will restore the balance. The sun, though it has burned brightly for so long, is no longer the only God. The shadow, which was once cast aside, will now rise to claim its rightful place in the heavens. There is no battle, no clash between the light and the dark. There is only the quiet shifting of the world, the slow, inevitable return of the forces that once shaped it. The forgotten gods are not interested in domination. They seek only to restore what was lost. The light of Nanahuatzin, which once burned with such brilliance, now flickers and fades, and in the silence that follows, the shadow will take its place. And in this silence, there is peace. The world does not end in fire or fury. It ends in quiet reflection, in the slow understanding that the cycle is always in motion, that creation and destruction are but two sides of the same coin. The light fades, yes, but it does not disappear. It becomes the shadow, and the shadow becomes the light. The gods who were once forgotten now return to claim their place in the heavens. They are not the gods of destruction, but the gods of balance. Gods who understand that both light and shadow must exist for the world to be whole. As you stand beneath the fading sun, you realize that you are a part of this cycle. The sun, once a beacon of hope, now becomes a memory. The shadow that follows it is not to be feared, but embraced. For it is the beginning of a new era time when light and dark will once again coexist in harmony. And as you listen as the silence grows deeper, you hear a final whisper, not from the gods of light or the gods of shadow, but from the very world itself speaking to you in the language of creation. If your candle hasn't gone out, then you're probably ready for the next god. The cycle has begun again. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more tales from the forgotten corners of mythology. A whisper calls from the edges of memory, soft and haunting, like the echo of a long-forgotten prayer. You can almost feel its warmth on your skin, but it's distant, elusive, like the last rays of sunlight before the world slips into shadow. Do you remember the sun? It asks. You're not sure if it's your own voice or something ancient, something far older, calling you to listen. There was a time when the sun wasn't as it is now, brilliant, untouchable, an eternal flame burning with untamed fire. There was a moment when the sun was humble, small in its birth, a flickering spark that no one believed could ever rise to glory. And it was this sun that would, in time, change everything. His name was Nanahuatzin, a name spoken with reverence, but also with a hint of sorrow, for it carries the memory of a god lost in the tides of time. You see, Nanahuatzin didn't seek the honor of becoming the sun. He wasn't like the others, the mighty gods with their splendor, their proud faces, and their strong hands. Nanahuatzin was simple, a god of humility. His very nature seemed too meek for the greatness the other gods demanded, but yet, it was he who would light the heavens and give life to the world. How did this happen? How did this small, unassuming god come to stand in the fire, a sacrifice to his own divine destiny? The answer is buried deep within the whispers of ancient rituals and forgotten practices, which speak of gods chosen not by might, but by something else entirely, something that can't be measured by the simple gaze of mortals. But first, you must understand how it all began. Let's travel to a time when the gods were still in their prime, when they moved with ease between the realms of humanity and the heavens. The world was a place of balance. The gods were to govern, and all things life, death, the seasons, the stars were in their hands. But the greatest of them all, the one who would be the sun, had not yet been decided. The gods gathered to choose who would rise to rule the heavens and cast their light upon the world. Many gods stood in line, their eyes burning with ambition, their hearts swelling with desire for the eternal glory of the sun. It will be me, they each thought, one more magnificent than the last. The powerful, the beautiful, the gods who had molded the elements, they were the chosen ones, or so they believed. But there, at the edge of the gathering, stood Nanahuatzin, small, unremarkable, his form wrapped in simplicity and quiet grace. He didn't stand with the grand gods, but apart from them, as if he had no place in their contest. Yet his heartbeat was something none of the other gods possessed, something quiet, humble, yet unyielding. The gods were divided. Who would be the sun? And why had they gathered in such a way? The answer remains a mystery. Why test the gods as if they were mere mortals? What were they trying to prove? Some say it was a cosmic test to see which god could endure the greatest sacrifice. Others whisper that a true God must find strength in surrender, in the willingness to offer themselves to the world without question. This was the trial Nanahuatzin would face. To become the sun, one had to sacrifice it all pride, arrogance, their very identity. And so Nanahuatzin, with his humble heart, offered himself freely to the flames of the gods. He wouldn't rise because he desired power or glory, but because it was his fate, written in the ancient stars, and he would walk that path, no matter how small he seemed. The trial was set. Nanahuatzin's competitors, gods of immense power and presence, stepped forward first. They were beautiful, terrifying, mighty. They offered their strength, their brilliance, their very souls to the flames. But none could match the quiet determination that burned in Nanahuatzin's heart. He, the most humble of them all, offered himself in the purest form of sacrifice, without pride, without expectation, only the willingness to disappear into the fire. The other gods watched. Surely he cannot survive this, they thought. But Nanahuatzin did not falter. He stepped into the flames without hesitation, and as the fire consumed him, something strange happened. He didn't burn away into nothingness. Instead, the sacred fire consumed him, but in doing so, it forged him into something else entirely. The humble god once thought unworthy became something far greater than any god could have imagined. He became the sun. But there was a cost to this transformation. The fire that birthed him also left a scar. His light, though brilliant, was not like that of the other gods. There was a shadow in his flame, a darkness that lingered even in his glory. The other gods, who had expected magnificence, stood in awe and fear. They whispered to one another about the shadow that accompanied Nanahuatzin's light. This was the beginning of a truth that would be passed down through the ages, a secret the gods themselves would try to erase, the truth that the sun, in all its brilliance, was not pure. It was born from the humility of a god, but it also carried with it a wound. You now stand at the edge of that truth. The sun, which lights our world, carries within it a hidden darkness, and its humble beginning is a story that few dare to speak aloud. Yet here you are, listening, as the whispers of the gods curl around you like smoke. And so, you ask yourself, what is the price of light? What must be sacrificed to become the source of all life? Let's get started with today's story.